Welcome to Animal Football Insider, your weekly look into the happenings of your Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Florida Gators, and all things related to football. And now, from West Des Moines, Iowa, here's your host, The Animal.
Down grab beneath the goalpost. The crossbar. Donovan guilty of holding, and that'll move the Bucs back. And now Brady going to work, trying to secure it. 44th. Come from behind one of the fourth quarter. Rachaad White, the running back. Here's the snap. Brady dropping, looking. Brady throws. Caught ball. It's caught. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Rachaad White. Rachaad White. Touchdown Buccaneers. Fire the cannons. Bucs tie the game at 16. Brady with a dart. Rachaad White finishes.
Yeah, really. I tell you what, Tom Brady hung in there, and that wasn't his first read. Rachaad White, it was zone coverage, and he just finds a seam.
Rachaad White's first career touchdown catch.
And with that, one of the more exciting, if not the most exciting Buccaneer game that we've seen in a long time on Monday night, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came back from 14 points with about 3 minutes to go in the game. And at the right time, the Buccaneers defeated the New Orleans Saints 17-16. It's the final score as the Buccaneers win the game and still remain on top in the NFC South. So glad to see it. Glad you could make it on tonight's edition of the Animal Football Insider. My thanks to that video, courtesy of BucsRateBullsVideo.com, along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you for allowing me to do that. One of the best play-by-play voices in all of football. Mean Gene Deckerhoff and Dave Moore, of course, was on the call. Now I gotta tell you, it wasn't pretty, but as you'll find out later on during the course of this show, maybe sometimes looking bad ends up making you look good in the final analysis. And that's what we did. And that's what we saw in tonight's game. We got a good show, I think, lined up for you tonight. Couldn't line up anybody to talk about the Buccaneer game, but we'll talk about it. We got the chat room that's open. And so if anybody wants to comment in the chat room and leave your questions, I'll be more than happy to post it as we'll talk about what's happening with the Buccaneers going forward, and we'll talk about that. And my good friend Peter Galens joins me, and he says, "Animal, love it, especially right in front of me." I don't know if I can get Peter on. I don't know if he'd like to join me. And talk. He was there at the game. He can tell us about the spectacle during the course of the game, and it was really, really quite an emotional game. And as we saw, it wasn't pretty. It got ugly. We know all about that. But in the final analysis, it's not what you do in the beginning. It's not what you do in the end. It's how you respond. I'm sorry, it wasn't good in the beginning. It wasn't good in the middle, but it's how you respond at the end of the game. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady, they were able to pull it out. And I got to tell you something. I know it looked sloppy. I know it was crazy at times. Freaking Donovan Smith. I mean, here's what's interesting about here's what really is interesting about the game. Okay, here's what is really interesting about the game. Okay, the Bucs play bad. The Bucs play horrible. But you know what? They played just enough to win the game. And I was so mad and frustrated with Donovan Smith because he's one of the veterans on this offensive line. He should know better. He gets 2 critical holding calls during the course of the game. But you know what? You know what's interesting about that, folks? The Buccaneers only had 4 penalties during the course of the game. 4 penalties during the course of the game for a total of 39 yards. Now, think about that for just a minute. Think about that. Okay? And, I mean, you know, we can sit here and talk all we want to about how sloppy the game was, and it was. There's no question in my mind about that. I mean, I was sitting there watching the game and having dreams of Brian Glazier waking up the next morning and ordering Jason Light to fire Todd Bowles because the game was ugly. Okay. But believe it or not, Tom Brady ends up saving Todd Bowles' job. And that's what happened. And freaking Donovan Smith, the way he was the way that he was playing, you know, it was just, it was just, you know, he was sloppy. He wasn't playing the kind of game that he wanted, he wanted to. The running game was nowhere in existence. But I got to tell you, Leonard Fournette had some good runs during the course of the game. Rashad White, he was excellent and was doing a marvelous job, you know. Oh my gosh! I cannot believe it. I put a call into this guy. He doesn't respond to me, and I'm like, okay, so he's not going to show up. No big deal. But lo and behold, he's in my green room tonight. He's eating what? He's eating avocado salad and Bud Light. I do that for these guys. That's why they come. They just like to eat the food. Peter Blake of the Sports Web. You can find him on Facebook. He does just an outstanding job on his show. I listen to him from time to time. It's called The Sports Web. Peter Blake joins us here tonight. And as I'm watching this game, and I told the people earlier before you came on, all I could envision was Brian Glazier storming into Jason Light's office and saying, fire Todd Bowles, fire Brian, I forget his last name because I'm just so excited, you know. Yeah, Brian Leftwich. And yet, in the end, these guys, they did what they had to do. And as I said before the crowd, to my audience, it's not how you play in the beginning. It's not how you play in the middle. It's how you respond in the end. And for Tom Brady and company, once again, he led the team from behind to win what really is a very important game for this team.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for the invite. I know that I haven't made it on here before, but I've been real busy, but I appreciate you, Joe, as always. And yeah, 44th career comeback in the fourth quarter, surpassing Peyton Manning, is pretty impressive. And I know what you were trying to say. It's not how you start, it's how you finished. And
exactly. Yes.
The Bucs, they finished off well the other night versus the Saints, which is an important win because now you get back to 500. Because you look at it, Joe, if you are 5-7, you're going to San Francisco. Well, basically, it could definitely go downhill from that point on because not only you got San Francisco, you got Cincinnati still on your schedule, Atlanta, Carolina. So, no easy games on this schedule at this juncture, and the Bucs had to win the other night, and they did.
Let me tell the crowd what Peter's referring to. They go to San Francisco this week, and at San Francisco, they return home against the Bengals. Then they go back out west again to Arizona, come back home to Carolina, and then fly out again to finish the regular season against the Atlanta Falcons. We talk more about what was ahead, but let's talk about Monday night because Peter, I see the game. I see how it's going. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, Todd Bowles. There's no way that Todd Bowles can survive this after this debacle Monday night. And I got to tell you though, for this team, They have 4 penalties the entire game for 39 yards. 2 of them against Donovan freaking. I'm so, you know what I'm talking about, you know, Donovan, you know, it was just like, okay, this is going to fall apart. But what happened? Tell me, what happened to make this team just get up and just play like crazy?
One word, urgency. I mean, and this is what this team doesn't have. And this comes down to coaching at the end of the day. And this team has to get better. This week it's the San Francisco 49ers because they're number 1 defense in the National Football League. So they have to have more urgency to this offense. Yeah. But, you know, the majority of the game, you're running on first down. You're not being able to be successful. You're not able to sustain any drives. And then when you do that, basically your defense gets worn out. And that's exactly what has been happening to this team, because you look at the rankings at the end of the day, you got the 5th ranked defense in the NFL, and that would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Even though they don't cause a lot of turnovers right now, only causing 11, they got to work on that. That defense the other night definitely kept this team in the game. So is it disappointing with all the weapons that you have offensively that you can't do more? Absolutely it is. And hopefully they can get that worked out, because they're going to need to against San Francisco, and they're going to need to in the next coming weeks if they want to be a playoff team. And that's how big that win was against the Saints the other night, because not only do you sweep the New Orleans Saints, but basically you take division control. And then furthermore, you're guaranteed at this juncture to have a home playoff game. So hopefully you can capitalize on that, but you're not going to beat anybody in the playoffs going forward unless you get this offense turned around, and you get it turned around quick.
I was Peter Blake of the Sports Web, and I got to do something. I got to do something here real quick, because you know what? Since the last time you joined me, I actually have a sponsor now, and that is Carpet. Yes, Carpet Direct. Carpet Direct of Des Moines, Iowa. If you need any type of carpeting, get a hold of my good friend Benton Taylor. Be more than happy to help you out and hook you up some carpeting here for you.
Good. Congratulations on the sponsor. That's
yes,
awesome.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm excited about that. We're growing just a little bit each and every day. But my logo is not working like it's supposed to. There we go. We got the logo. This defense saved this team. There's no question in my mind about it. But early on in the game, they looked like, to be quite honest with you, they looked like crap. They were not playing the kind of defense that we're used to them playing. Right. Why is it this team always has slow starts? I mean, it just drives my mind crazy. And this just in, the animal does have a mind.
Well, I definitely think you have a mind, or you wouldn't be doing a show at the end of the day. But you're exactly right. This defense has been plagued by slow starts.
Thank you for watching.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's all right. And, that has not changed. And, it happened the other night with Keanu Neal losing the tight end, being Taysom Hill, who's been a buck killer at the end of the day. He made up for it with the play of the game, basically jarring that ball loose against Hill on a 3rd and 17. But
that's right. Yeah.
That defense always gets off to a slow start. And again, that's on coaching for me. You got to get your team ready to play. You got to get them focused and coming out strong and causing a 3-and-out. And instead, you got a defense that the majority of the year, once again, has been on their heels. Of course, could you say it's injury? Absolutely. You're missing 3 guys in that back end, and an Antoine Winfield, a Mike Edwards, and of course a
Vita Vea.
Well, no,
and Vita Vea too.
Not in this game. In the back end against the Saints, you're
okay. So you're talking about secondary. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're missing those guys in the back end. So are there new people that you're depending on, new players that you're depending on? Absolutely. And are they in the right positions? No. Was there communication breakdowns on Monday night? Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. And you should have that again going forward, because a good team like the San Francisco 49ers, who has a Deebo Samuel, who has a Christian McCaffrey, who has a Brandon Ayuk, who has a Kittle there at tight end, you better get that communication correct. You better come out and be ready to play. And again, for me, that falls on coaching.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it does. I think it does fall down to coaching. And speaking of the coaching, we've heard a lot of rumors throughout the course of the year on relationship between Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady, and other things. But I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing that. I mean, I'm seeing. I know we saw Tom Brady during the course of the game. At one point, he was yelling and telling the coaching staff to throw the freaking ball. Right. I mean, is the relationship that bad, or is it just moments of frustration during the course of a game?
Well, I don't think their relationship is that bad. What I think is the play calling has to change. And again, if you have all these weapons, you have to be more aggressive than you've been. You have to have some urgency at the end of the day. Running on first down constantly and only getting 1 yard. And there's a statistic out there, Animal, that this team, when it comes down to 3rd and 10 or more, they're 3 and 47 on conversions. You just can't win football games like that. So, they were 8 for 15 on third down because most of those third downs were manageable. But when you get into those situations where it's 10, 12, 15 yards, you're basically asking for that defense. And just to throw an old cliche out there, can pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. And this line has not helped out anybody this year because there's been so much shuffling around. There's been so many injuries. A lot of people just considered and said, you know what, this line will be fine because Tom Brady's back there. But at the end of the day, the onus also has to be to protect your 45-year-old quarterback.
No question about it. And the offense and that offensive line has been having its difficulties. Donovan is just, the guy really throughout the course of the year, you didn't hear his name much. You did not hear Donovan's name missing much.
Right.
But we saw in the Cleveland game, let's not even go there because that was probably about as horrible as the Animals' love life, but that's another story there for another day and time. But, in that Cleveland game was bad. There's no question in my mind about it. But it was in that game where Donovan was called holding a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. He got called holding a couple of times in this game, and you got to wonder what is going through this guy's head. What's wrong? Because up until these past 2 or 3 games, we have not heard much about him at all.
Well, he's the most penalized player in the league.
I know.
For that, you go back to BA's comments, and I always circle on this, where BA said the guy tries to knock the hell out of somebody and loses technique. Maybe he's trying too hard at that juncture. Maybe he's trying to, basically be better because you got a starting rookie at left guard. You have Nick Leverett. You don't have that chemistry with what you had the last couple of years with an Ali Marpet. And he picked up a critical penalty that nullified a third down conversion where Brady gets a shuttle pass to Rashard White. White gets the first down, but it's nullified because White gets a penalty for
holding penalty.
Well, no, not a holding. It's illegal hands to the face on Myles Garrett.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then
in this game, he picks up another penalty. And, of course, the offensive line and Tom Brady, everybody else rallies around this guy. And they say, you know what? It's not going to matter because we're going to still get a touchdown at the end of the day and make this happen. And they did on Monday night. But that has plagued this team throughout the year with the critical penalties at critical times. We could talk about how many times they get penalties, and it just kills a team. And no matter how good you are, and right now the Bucs are what they are. They're a 6-6 team. They have an opportunity to run the table. But if you're not that good, you're not going to be able to overcome those penalties. So you're going to have to do a better job of that. And again, it starts on Sunday versus the San Francisco 49ers, because the 49ers, say whatever you want to without a Jimmy Garoppolo, they still are an upper echelon team with a number one defense in this league. And
let's not rule out Brock Purdy, quarterback for San Francisco 49ers.
Sure.
There's some connection between Purdy and me because he comes from Iowa State. So
Mm-hmm.
that's I don't know the guy, but he does come from Iowa State. I'm in Iowa, so that there's that connection. And and he's a very good quarterback. There's no question in my mind about it. And as I was looking through the injury report, and I can't pull it up, but there were several players. Vita Bay is on it, and there's several other people that are on it for this weekend's game. I saw the 49ers injury report, and I saw Jimmy Garoppolo's name on it. But from everything I've heard, Garoppolo,
he's out for the year.
Yeah, he's out for the year. So
right.
Why are they not? So excuse me. Why are they not putting him on the injured reserve list and not even have him on the injury report? That's something that's weird. I don't understand it.
Well, it's a great question, but all reports would suggest that he's out for the year. And once again, it's Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant out of Iowa State, and he played well against the Miami Dolphins, which to me was a surprise win, because you're telling me that you're playing with a 7th-round quarterback against the Miami Dolphins, who are not the best defense, but they're somewhat good and a highly explosive offense. But at the end of the day, defense wins, and defense wins championships. And that's what happened last Sunday versus the Miami Dolphins. That San Francisco 49er defense got after it, and then Purdy did a good enough job to get the ball to his weapons, and that's exactly what they're going to ask him to do at the end of the day. They're going to scale down that offensive playbook. They're going to put him in the position to win, and Todd Bowles' job and this defense's job is to make it very uncomfortable for him, especially in that pocket.
Peter Blake of the Sports Web joining us on this edition of the Carpet Direct One Animal Football Insider here on Facebook Live, along with Twitter and YouTube. You got questions? Put them in the chat room for Peter. We'd be more than happy to answer questions should you have questions. Brady's a great quarterback. There's no question in my mind about that. Greatest quarterback in the history.
Sure.
We're into week 11, and this offense should be just churning and just being.
Well, we're in the week 14. We're in the week 14, week 13.
Is it 14?
Yeah, it's week 14. Yes, sir.
I see the year goes by so fast. But yeah, okay. So we're in week 14. This offense should be like a veteran offense playing at a high level, but they're not.
Right.
And I understand the injuries. Okay, I know that some of that has to do with injuries, but this offensive line has been makeshift throughout the course of the year. Mm-hmm. And what is the feeling around One Buck Place about that? I mean, you got some good, decent offensive linemen, but you don't have top-notch offensive linemen. And it's like this team is playing on barely trying to get by instead of trying to dominate. Is that a concern within the front office?
I never think it's a concern. I mean, I don't know the inner workings on One Buck Place, but if you told me we're talking about week 14 and your team is only scoring 18 points a game, and from last year with those over 20-yard plays, your middle road instead of being one of the number one teams in the NFL, I think that's definitely a concern. I think there's a concern here when you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Julio Jones and Cade Otton and Rashard White and Leonard Fournette, and you're not able to score consistently. I think there's a concern when you get into the red zone and you're not able to punch it in. I think there's a concern when you have a 45-year-old quarterback that's usually very accurate when it comes to the deep ball. And clearly, he's even talked about this on his podcast, that he's missing those throws down the field. There's definitely concern. Is there panic? No, I don't think there's panic. And I guess the question would be, should he come back next year? I guess it depends on what they do here. If they run the table at this juncture, if they happen to get through the first round, because at the end of the day, Brady coming back was all about unfinished business, right, Animal? I mean, it was all about winning a Super Bowl. So anything less than that, I think there's a concern. But if Brady's willing to come back, and I know there's a lot of fans out there who don't want him to come back, who for some reason they want to go with a young quarterback that's unproven, because that's never worked out in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history. But if Brady wanted to come back and you wanted to bring this coaching staff back, you better get a healthy offensive line. You better figure out the play calling situation. Concern?
No.
Yes. Panic? No.
Yeah, and Brian Leftwich touched on the play calling today. I kind of briefly read what he said in his press conference today, but it's like he's trying to defend his play calling abilities, and I don't know. This is a guy that's not willing to change. I don't know.
I mean, that's a great point. And he was asked about it, running a 2-minute drill, trying to run a hurry up offense at the end of the day. Let Brady call the plays. I was hashtagging that the other night on Monday night after the Bucs.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that should be hashtagged because you put the ball in Brady's hands. You have urgency to your offense. You don't let that 49er defense substitute their players in, and basically you wear them out. Now, will he do that? He kind of alluded it to today that it doesn't seem like he wants to do that. That's fine. But the problem with that is if you continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, you know what we call that animal?
Insanity. Insanity. Just like me. It's insane with the membrane. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
yes.
So but I mean, like what he's doing is like, they're trying to run a 2-minute drill. Why not let Brady call the plays instead of having somebody in his ear bothering him? Leave him alone. This man's an expert. He knows what he's doing. And it just boggles my mind why they don't let Brady have more input and let him be the captain on the field. He is the captain. Let him act. Let's show it in action on the field. Now, I don't know if I'm right on this, but it just seems to me that it's just a C and I don't know what you call it, but just like it's not actually just for show. He's wearing the C for show. You know what I'm saying? And that Leftwich is constantly running the offense. I'm not saying that Brian Leftwich is a bad guy. I'm just saying when you have a guy that's been in this league as long as he has, I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't think they forgot how to coach. I just don't think it's working necessarily, right? I mean, when you're throwing the ball 44 times a game, which is Brady's average, that's how you got to win. But is that a winning formula for this team going forward? Not in my opinion, because it's going to eventually get cold, maybe not down here, but up north, and you're going to have to play some road games. You may have to play the Philadelphia Eagles up there in a rematch of last year's wild card game where you soundly defeated them. Now the Eagles are the best team in the National Football League, so you may have to go in cold weather. Well, you can't throw the ball 40 to 50 times and expect to win. You have to become balanced, and what that means is you have to have an attitude. I'm not saying every play run on first down. A lot of fans get upset about that because you're not getting any yardage. We talked about it. When you have longer than 3rd and 10, you're 3 for 47 when it comes to converting those third downs. So if that doesn't work, you have to keep those third downs manageable, which means you may have to throw on first down or you may have to go pass play action on first down to change it up. And if you can get 5 or 6 yards, then it makes those third downs that much better, which means you can convert. Which basically means your offense is that much better and you keep your defense off the field. But at the end of the day, you can't continue to do the same thing and, have the
expect the same results.
Right.
It's insane in the what's the song? Insane in the membrane. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes. And I think there's a lot of Bucs fans out there on Monday night for 3.5 quarters that were definitely insane in the membrane watching this offense work because it wasn't working. It was off work. Here's the Saints team. Look, they're a good defense, but at the end of the day, they're a 4-8 football team. And I get it. They've given the Bucs everything they can handle, but you've got to play better than that because if you're not playing better than that versus the Saints, and I get it, NFL means no freaking logic, but if you can't beat the Saints, what tells me you can beat one of these upper teams in the league?
Great point. Excellent point. Excellent point. And I think comes the time, I think this is the time where they have to pick up their game a little bit and become more concerned about how they do things. You talk about a younger quarterback, and of course here at the Animal Football Insider, we talk about these boys right here at the Florida Gators. Kyle Trask.
I'm quarterback with the team, by the way, because I'm a Florida State fan. But go ahead.
My condolences about that. So we'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk about that. No,
I pretty much remember Florida State beating your Gators in Tallahassee.
Oh yes, they did. And man, that was. Let me tell you something, my friend. My wife and I, we traveled to Texas for a few days, and I saw that game, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And as it turns out, it was Anthony Richardson's last game. But back to Kyle Trask. He's been on this third quarterback deal now ever since he got drafted. And he hasn't played much in the regular season. And I understand that. But at what point do you say that this guy, that they're serious about Kyle Trask, this guy should be getting in the game and playing more? So what have you heard about Kyle Trask and his role and even his future with this team? Because at some point, Kyle's got to get a little bit upset and want to get on that field, and I can't say I blame him.
Not much. I mean, you haven't heard much because you got the greatest of all time at the controls. So I'm not worried about Kyle Trask starting anytime soon for this team, but I think the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, you got Blaine Gabbert, who's clearly the backup. Kyle Trask has not been able to beat him out as the backup quarterback. So I think that kind of tells you where the organization is thinking about Mr. Trask. And at the end of the day, everybody rushing to get Trask in there. Why? You've got Tom Brady. Worry about Tom Brady at the end of the day. When Tom Brady wants to go somewhere else or he wants to retire, then that's when you worry about your quarterback situation. Everybody kind of forgets, selective amnesia with some of these Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans. The Bucs have never been able to develop a young quarterback. Jameis Winston for 5 years. I mean, the list goes on and on. Trent Dilfer, and he tested verdict. How many quarterbacks? Josh Freeman. They have not been able to develop. Usually when they do well is when they go after a veteran quarterback, namely a Brad Johnson. There's other cases in there, a Brian Greasy. You have Jeff Garcia. They do better with a veteran quarterback and now a Tom Brady. So why is everybody in a rush to get the future when the future is now? And if Brady wants to come back at 46 years old, if Brady wants to come back at 47 years old, if Brady wants to come back at 48 years old, if Brady wants to come back at 49 years old, if Brady wants to come back at 50 years old, as the Tampa Bay organization, I'll just speak for them, let him.
Yeah. That's a great point. And that really is a great point with the whole Kyle Trask situation. What are the plans now for this team? Are they flying out on Friday or are they going to fly out on Saturday? What have you heard about that?
They're flying out on Friday.
Okay, I kind of just to get to the time change.
That's what my good friend TJ Reeves of the Buccaneer Radio Network says. I believe they're flying out on Friday. So I think that's what they're doing. And we'll see, because it's going to be a tough game. It's a 4:00 game. It's against a team that right now is one of the best. And until somebody beats them and beats that defense, you're not going to be able to say otherwise. But at the end of the day, they're starting a rookie quarterback. It's only his second start, so the Bucs have to take advantage of it. And hopefully, once again, that defense can put pressure on him to make some things happen, namely some turnovers and sacks.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I've seen Brock Purdy play a lot of games at Iowa State. This kid is really the real deal. You talk about a guy that has a great future ahead. Brock Purdy is a guy to watch for. So I promise you, this guy is good. And when you see him, and I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I'm just saying this guy is a good quarterback. Do not disrespect him because he is very good at.
But he's still a rookie quarterback at the end of the day, and that should be an advantage to a defense. You look in the annals of Bucs history; it necessarily hasn't been that kind when they have a rookie quarterback or a backup quarterback. You have the losses this year to the likes of PJ Walker, Jacoby Brissett, Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, it hasn't worked out in their favor. No. But it should be an advantage, and you hope Todd Bowles and this defensive coaching staff will put some type of game plan together to hinder what he wants to do on Sunday afternoon.
Think about this for just a minute. We wrap it up with Peter here. Mitch Trubisky. He was such a highly touted quarterback before the draft,
Right.
that the Bears traded up to number 2 to
Correct.
get this guy, and look how far he has just fallen. It's just unbelievable to see what happened. Real quick, anything else that's happening down in Tampa? I know that non-football related. I know that I'm a Rays fan, and I'm hearing now that St. Peter's coming up with a proposal again. What's going on with that?
Well, there was a report out there, and it looks like the Rays would favor St. Pete, and that's not really a shocking surprise because at the end of the day, it's all about the redevelopment fee. That's exactly what Tampa Bay cannot offer, and that's what Stu is all about. He's about money. He's about putting money in his pocket, and they want the best deal. And Stu doesn't want to pay for the stadium. He doesn't want to pay half for the stadium. He wants the city of St. Pete to pay for the stadium, and guess what? They want to keep the Rays here, so more than likely they'll get that deal done. We'll see what happens because he's not going anywhere. Major League Baseball doesn't want him to go anywhere. It's the 11th largest market. They can threaten all they want to about, going somewhere else, a relocation, but there's not a city out there that's willing to pay the cost that Stu wants to pay, because if there were, this would already be done. It's just a threat, and if you look back in the history of baseball, you could see it happening. Major League Baseball has done this before to the Tampa Bay area. When the White Sox were supposedly going to come to St. Pete and Tampa area, they got a new stadium at the last minute. When San Francisco was supposed
I remember all that.
They got a new stadium. When Seattle was supposed to come here, they got a new stadium. So it is a tactic. Consequently, the tactic has been used against Tampa and St. Pete. Now that they got Tampa in there, St. Pete has come and said, you know what? We got a redevelopment fee. We got a redevelopment deal for you. We'll give you the best deal. Now, will it work out if you're in St. Pete? I'm not sure. Fans don't show up, but fans don't show up because this owner doesn't go all in like a
No, it's going to be
owner.
No.
That's
right.
the problem. And I get it. You're competitive, but really, is there any fan favorites? I mean, do we think that Wander Franco is going to see the end of that contract? No. Do we think that any of these guys that are signed right now are not going to be gone in 2 or 3 years? No. So how do you become a fan of the Tampa Bay Rays when they continue to just basically, trade off fan favorites like, they're nothing at the
Brett Phillips. Yeah, Brett Phillips,
Brett Phillips was it. Look, I get it. I understand. He was a fan favorite. That's the problem. He wasn't hitting, but defensively, you just got rid of Kevin Kiermaier. He was a fan favorite. Cost them a lot of money. They like to cut salary. There has not been a team, and I'll end off on this, since 2003 in the Florida Marlins, which they were 25th in spending. There has not been a team since then that has not spent 15th or to first that has won a World Series. Can you think of how much the Rays have spent with their salary cap or lack thereof a salary cap? What do you think their salary figure is for the Rays? At the most. 70 to $80 million. They have never been a team that has even spent midway to baseball teams. It's always been the lower portion of it. And that's the problem. And that's the reason people go, well, they're competitive. They made a World Series a couple years ago. Did they win a World Series? Because when you want to compete against the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox fans, and I'm a Yankee and Red Sox fan, why should I switch over my allegiance to be a Rays fan if the owner is not willing to do what he needs to do? That's the problem. Tampa, St. Pete, you can put it out in Timbuktu, but if I know the owner at the end of the day is going to get rid of fan favorites and cut salary, I'm not going to go and watch. I'd rather sit at home and watch TV, which, by the way, they have some of the highest TV ratings out there of any Major League Baseball teams. And, oh, by the way, nobody wants to talk about that. We do on the
that's just amazing. And when you mentioned the money, Aaron Judge, $300 million. No, what is it? $800 million contract that he signed. I mean,
9-year, $360 million, and they're never going to spend that type of money. And even if they, they signed Wander Franco, but
I know,
backloaded, and you're not going to probably see the light of that deal because they're going to trade him off as soon as his skills start to diminish.
I know
it's out of control. So how do you be a Rays fan? I don't know.
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is fun. I want to try and get you on one more time before the season ends. We'll talk more about the Bucs and some other things. So thank you very much for joining me, Peter. I appreciate it.
No problem, Joe. Appreciate the time, buddy, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Blake of the Sports Web. You can catch him on Facebook Live, and he just does an outstanding job. So, so I'm sitting here, and we're talking about, the Rays and their situation and how teams are how players are leaving because they won't see the end of their contracts. Let's talk about the Florida Gators. They're not getting money, but we're seeing more players drop off the planet, which I don't know if it has to do with Loren Meadows getting that $100 million contract with Gatorbait Media. But Loren Meadows, as you join me here tonight, it is unbelievable what we're seeing with. I think it's now 18 guys that have said they're going into the transfer portal. Please tell me what in the heck is going on. And by the way, thank you for joining me on the Corporate Direct Hotline.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, my friend.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for having me. I think it's the new normal, and that's what we're going to have to get used to. I think at this point in time, this is where the game is. I mean, with the one-time transfer, you're going to have a young man that can come in, young woman, depending on the sport, can come in and decide that they're going to go. They're going to test the waters out, see how it goes. And then when things don't necessarily go the way they want them to, or there's a coaching change, or there's a position coach change, a myriad of things that can happen, they're going to look elsewhere. And, the days of finding a school and getting ingrained into the campus life and those kind of things, that's going to be minuscule in the big scheme of things. I mean, it is the new normal now. So I know a lot of the Gator fans are up in arms about, Jaden Rashada this year and DJ Lagway for the next year. Just hold your horses, because the days of us, getting. I was making a joke the other day, that now you can get a jersey and a player can put his name on the back of the jersey and receive some compensation and things like that. But nowadays, you better just buy the number, because that player could be gone. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm trying to figure out, is there trouble within the confines of the Gator locker room? I mean, we saw Chief Borders leave. We even had somebody today that announced that he was leaving. I mean, is that what this is all about, or this is something where they want to have more playing time? I mean, I don't know. I've never seen so many guys leave as I'm seeing right now.
I think it's like I said, it's the new normal, and I think it's a mix of a couple things. I don't think there's a culture problem, because, like I said on your show the last time, I think Billy Napier has done a great job as far as the player experience at Florida. But let's face it, you and I both know. You look at the Florida Gators, particularly in the front four. We're not SEC ready, and we're not ready to go toe to toe with the teams that you have to be able to hold up with up front for the long haul. And I think Billy Napier and his staff have recognized that. And I think there were some hard discussions that you have to have with some kids like a Chief Borders, who obviously academically has done extremely well at Florida, chose Florida over Stanford. I told somebody the other day, I hope he doesn't go to Vanderbilt, because then we have to play him, but he's definitely smart enough to get into Vanderbilt. But I think it's just, it's very easy to point to the fact that there is an issue. Billy Napier made somebody mad. And there will be times where a coach, not just Billy Napier, but at any school, where a young man is not necessarily comfortable. I did have a conversation with a parent at the FSU game that was not necessarily impressed with Billy Napier top to bottom, and some of the comments that he had made to the gentleman and his wife as parents of a player. But in the big scheme of things, I just think it's the new normal. And, guys are going to go where they have an opportunity to play, look for an opportunity to get on the field. And, you got to think of it this way. If Jaden Rashada is in the 2023 class and DJ Lagway is in the 2024 class, there is a 50-50 chance that one of them does not finish their career at the University of Florida. And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and I was thinking that. I was thinking that when the announcement was made yesterday. DJ Lagway, a 5-star quarterback, made his announcement yesterday that he was going to go to the University of Florida. Think about this for 1 minute, people. This is the first top 5 quarterback that the Gators have gotten since back in 2013. Name the quarterback.
2013, that would have been Jeff Driscoll.
Exactly. Yes. Very good. You get a free gift certificate to the Animals Restaurant just for that,
Right.
But yeah. And when I looked at that, I'm like, excuse me, and I'm like, wow, and look, 5-star players don't always pan out. We saw that with Driscoll. He wasn't the hype that everybody made him out to be. I sometimes think that I rather have 2-3-star players at my school than 4 or 5 stars, because these are guys that probably want to earn their keep and play. They know what they have to do to play at a higher level. That's just my opinion about these 4 and 5 stars. And hey, I got them made. I'm going to play well. I got it all made, and then they turn out to be flubs at the school. And look, we've seen that happen plenty of times. Anthony Richardson. That is the one surprise I had. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Anthony. I think he's a great player. I think he has a lot of ability within him to play well. But Loren, I was shocked that he decided to go. I really figured he would have tried to stay 1 more year just to get a little bit better.
Well, I think I think from him speaking to NFL experts and the people around him and his team and his coaches, I think they were kind of like strike while the iron's hot. And Mel Kiper came out with his review of the quarterback, and he's the 4th-rated quarterback on the board. So he's going to go well, go show out at the combine. And I told somebody this the other day. I was actually at the gym, and somebody asked me, and I said, "Here's the thing, you got to look at it." If I could play devil's advocate for a minute. Okay. I agree. I think Anthony Richardson could use more live game reps and things like that and come back and that kind of thing. But let's say this. Let's say that a young man who has college stats comparable to a Josh Allen when he was coming out of Wyoming, people questioned his, mental, not necessarily mental aptitude, but ability to handle the NFL game, things like that. Well, now Anthony Richardson is going to have the ability to concentrate on football 24/7, all day, every day. And he's going to have what would be considered the best of tutelage at the position. He'll go in, he'll study behind, if not a good quarterback, at least a veteran quarterback in the NFL. And now everything he does will be built upon him being the quarterback for that franchise. Secondly, let's say that he falls to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Well, Jake Fromm, a few years back, is a 4th-round pick. His salary will accumulate to $4.7 million. Not
Where's
generational wealth. He's I think, Buffalo. Not generational wealth, but very wealthy. A practice player at the NFL level for 18 weeks, that's $11,000 a week. There you go. So, when it comes down to it, and all you're doing is football, the very thing you love. So, you're not responsible for 84 other guys, you're responsible for 52 other guys. I mean, there's a lot of perks to going to the NFL, not having to go to class, all these things. You don't have to step back in the Hawkins Center for tutoring or anything like that. It's football, football, football. And what NFL scouts say, if we can get this guy and we put all of our eggs in a basket and everything he does is built around being the best quarterback he can be, we can't teach 6'4", 240, 4.5, 4.6 speed. We can't teach that. He's got that. Now we got to teach him how to play quarterback.
Yeah, and by the way, not to correct you, sorry. He is with the Washington Commanders under a 1-year deal for $207,000.
Okay.
And this guy's not even a starter, and just like with Kyle Trask. I mean, he's with the Buccaneers. I don't know if you came on when we were talking about Kyle Trask.
I did.
And and he's right. You got Tom Brady, got the greatest. Why would you want to put a rookie quarterback in? I get all of that. I kind of wonder though sometimes, when does Kyle say enough is enough, or is he really happy just learning from the greatest? I mean, I think that would be interesting to see. By the way, Loren Meadows of Gatorbait Media joins us on this edition of the Animal Football Insider, sponsored by Carbide Direct One in Des Moines, Iowa. Here, Billy Napier. He mentioned that he was hoping to get a bowl game and have 15 days to get those 15 practices in. He felt that it's important. But this guy's out, and I understand about recruiting. You got to get out there. You got to recruit. I get all that. Explain this to me, how he can be out on the recruiting trail and still have these guys practicing at the same time. I mean, it's nice to see these guys get rest, but if you want those 15 extra practices, shouldn't you be there? I mean,
well, they started practice today, so you get up to 15. It doesn't necessarily mean that you use all 15. So you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You get up to 15. So depending on the bowl game that you get and those kind of things, but I mean, if you look at it, they'll practice today. And when you say practice, I think those count as like contact days and film study. So they practice this morning, they'll practice tomorrow morning, Saturday, and then they'll start Oregon State prep on Sunday, which will be the fourth day. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So they'll get about
that'd be
roughly 9, 10 in.
10, yeah, okay, yeah, that's about right.
Which essentially gives you another week of game prep. It allows, now particularly a Jack Miller, who he announced, which most of us thought would start the game, gives him the opportunity to get all the first team reps, things like that. I would assume that Max Brown or Kyle Engel will be the backup, so they'll get, second team reps. But, it's kind of an extended game week, so to speak, for them. Right. So I think, you have the liberty to, like you said, go out and recruit. Guys are probably getting the lift in, getting healthy, which a lot of times an old track coach told me sometime that rest is sometime better than practice. And what I mean by that is now, he came out today and said that guys that were missing, Jaquavion Frazier, Xavier Henderson, Takai Bowman, I can't say his first name, but those three receivers that had missed the Florida State game were full participants at practice. So, taking some time off, finding out where we were going to a bowl game. And then, they got that brand new spanking training facility with crowd therapy and all that, got everybody healthy. And I really think they're going to take a decent team to Vegas. I mean, you got guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ventrell Miller will be missing. I'm not sure if anybody asked him about Osiris Torrance yet, but Gervon Dexter said that he's going to play in the bowl game.
Yeah,
So,
Gavon said he was playing.
yeah.
I
Did we
don't
hear
know
on
about.
Torrance or not?
I am not heard about
Okay.
Torrance. I think he's
Okay.
playing. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't.
You know what? And somebody like Torrance, he's a senior on this team. Okay, he's going to graduate. I can see him going ahead and leaving. I wouldn't too much have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that these sophomores and juniors here who think that they can find greener pastures, they haven't gotten their degree yet, and I mean, that's where I have the problem with it, and they're trying to take advantage.
Right, I would agree totally, but I think two things is most of the time, well, not anymore. It used to be where guys with the summer school and things like that, they could graduate in 2.5, 3 years at times, and a lot of them come into college with a few credits, already out of the gate. Particularly if some came in the spring and things like that. But I think it's a risk now, and that's a discussion that you got to have with your family, and you got to understand that obviously there's a risk reward to it. One, the risk is, like you said, losing the opportunity for a degree. And let's face it, I mean, there's over 1,000 kids in that transfer portal nationally. All of them will not find places to go and play football. So now what? And that's the risk in all of this. I mean, it gives players flexibility, but there's only so many spots where they can go. So, do they go to the Division II, 1AA? Even some drop as far as Division III. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, to see the fallout. I mean, the last couple of years, people have found places to go since they instituted the one-time transfer. And you unfortunately don't really hear about those that don't. But yeah, that's the risk. I mean, but like I said, I have a problem with it too. I was somebody that went to school in order to get a degree, played football, obviously not at the level like Florida, but that's the thing is that, like you said, I worry that we are losing sight of, even as fans, losing sight of the educational reward that comes with playing at a school, particularly like the University of Florida and many of the other schools in the SEC that have really strong academic, reputations as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of like right now that people are taking advantage of this portal, and somebody I heard somebody say that the way this works, if you go into the portal the first time, if you decide to go in again, you have to stay out a year. I don't know how true that is, but I mean,
that's what it is. Yeah,
I think that's what it is. So
unless you graduate, then if you graduate, you don't have to sit out a year. Because you go
if you go into for a second. Oh, that's interesting. So maybe that's why Osiris used the transfer portal to come to Florida. Okay, so he's graduating from Florida, so he can go to another school automatically. Doesn't have to sit out a year. That's interesting.
If he wants,
you see here, folks. You see here, folks, on the Animal Football Insider. Even the animal learns something new every day. That's just how it is. Sure. One guy that I think learned the hard way about being a college player, John Kitna, and that whole situation there. Talk about a little bit. I mean, has Billy Napier commented on that? I know that he was dismissed from the team.
No, I think that he just touched on it due to both litigious issues as well as NCAA issues. He's not at liberty to talk about it, so we haven't had much talk on that. And to tell you the truth, I happened to have a discussion with John Kitna after the Texas A&M game, and respectfully, very nice guy. Have always had a lot of respect for the way he carried himself professionally. So I've really stayed away from it. It's unfortunate for a lot of different reasons, particularly because I thought he might have had a chance at the quarterback position at Florida. But, you know, for just out of respect for everybody involved, it's just an unfortunate situation, you know.
Yeah, it really is. And for those who don't know, John Kinnon was arrested for, I'm not going to talk about that because, it's just
I would leave it
disgusting. And I don't, let's not even give the time of day. Have you toured the new facility? Have you had a chance to tour the new facility?
I have.
What's it? I mean, it's really everything they say it is and better.
Yes, but I will say this: it is opulent because it's what Florida was missing. But I'm gonna be honest with you: when you compare it against a Texas A&M and Alabama, it is Ohio State. It's just on par. So
Right.
I'm going to say that what it has done is it has put us on a level playing field. It has not put us above and beyond the rest of the schools. So very necessary. But the one thing I think that's most impressive, and I'm going to put my total Florida fan, as I also cover women's basketball, softball, men's and women's track and field. And what I like about it is you walk in, you see the Jeremy Foley Hall of Champions, and to your right there is a full service cafeteria that every single athlete can be, has use of, things like that. All the football stuff is kind of in the back and on the second level, whereas the front is for all athletes. And I think there's something to be said for instance, Talitha Diggs, who was a gold medalist in the World Championships, for her being able to rub elbows with a Ricky Pearsall or a Xavier Henderson or a Ethan White, and you have future Olympians, a Trinity Thomas, rubbing elbows with Alex Fudge on the basketball team, and just the symbiotic relationship between world-class athletes that I don't think you necessarily see at other schools. And I think that's going to bode well just for like I said, the player experience at the University of Florida. Now, from an efficiency standpoint, which is nice, you have, everything's right there. You literally walk out the indoor practice field, you're in the weight room right there. You go, and then you can go out a side door and you're right on the practice field. You come in from the practice field, they got a wash off area. You wash your cleats off, boom, you're right in the cold tub. So the efficiency by which the team will be able to operate is gonna really make a difference.
Is it like here's the indoor facility and the practice field's connected to that indoor practice facility?
Right,
or is that
okay? Right next door.
Okay.
You walk out and you're right there, and then the weight rooms to the south end of that, and then you've got nutrition, training room, all that is easy access in and out of the facility. So that is nice, as well as the locker room.
Talk about Deion Sanders for just a minute. Of course, he took the Colorado job. At any point, were Gator coaches or officials kind of worried that he might indeed take Florida State or the USF job? I mean, was there any kind of like caution about that you can tell us about?
I have not spoken with anyone about Deion particularly going to USF. If I have some connections to a couple coaches, and I could add, I will kind of reach out to them about that. But just on the outside looking in, I mean, Deion to USF would have been a major play on the part of USF from a recruiting standpoint. But even Deion to Colorado is interesting because, Colorado does have some unique facilities. I think they're a little cash strapped from the ability of being able to pay him, but it's a place where, you have the Denver Broncos up the road and different things like that, where football is important. I mean, you look at
Yeah,
one time, Colorado and Colorado State were two of the premier programs in that part of the country, at one
that's
time.
right.
So,
That's right.
I think that, it's interesting to see, but I think Dion will play well in that boat. I think that, one of the things he has going for him is, he could be the big fish out there because you have the stars of UCLA, USC. They'll be heading, east to go play in the Big Ten. So it's going to be interesting what the next couple of years look like for Dion. I saw he hired, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but Kelly from Alabama to
Yeah.
be his defensive coordinator. So I think that, you could have some players from Alabama follow. Travis Hunter has already said that he will be following Dion. So I mean,
Oh,
they're going to increase in talent pretty quickly, and I think Dion's done a nice job for himself, not only making Jackson State a national brand, but really allowing himself to be truly taken serious as a coach. And he's going to probably bring Mike Zimmer with him, who was with him at Jackson State, former NFL head coach.
oh
He's going to have,
wow! I didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah.
that.
So yeah, Mike Zimmer was an advisor for him, or like an analyst for him at Jackson State, and surely he'll follow Dion to Colorado, I'm sure.
And what's interesting about this is that last year there was a number one recruit in the nation. He had planned on going to Florida State, ended up going to Jackson State, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of wonder, will that recruit go in the transfer portal back to Florida State,
Well, that
or will he follow?
no,
Go ahead.
that's Travis Hunter. He's going with Dion to Colorado.
Oh,
Yes. So he will be
oh, okay,
following,
okay.
yeah. And he's a bona fide NFL player.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we're connecting here, buddy. We're connecting. You know what I'm saying? We're connecting.
Yep.
Are you going to or the game itself? Or are you going to watch it from home?
I will be watching from home. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but Vegas in January or December is not the most hospitable place. I'm a pool and cabana type guy. All the pools are closed, so I don't do much gambling. So I think I'm gonna
I
sit
don't
this one
either.
out. Yeah,
There you go. There you go.
I was hoping the bowl site would be a little closer, and then I would have definitely attended. But with Vegas, and then I'm actually heading back to Ohio, where I'm from, the next week for the Christmas holiday. So I'm gonna sit this one out. So I'll be watching from home, just like everybody else.
And finally, as we close this out here tonight, um, the signing day is coming up. What
Mm-hmm.
is the date on that? And from everything I'm hearing, there's a lot of players that Napier gets in the early signing period could actually be signed. The players that he gets in this early class, a lot of them could be signing early and going into Florida early. What have you?
Yeah,
When is the date?
I
And
think
what have you heard about that?
I think it's December 21st and December 20th or 21st, and that they're pumping along. I mean, they're trying to flip the ones they don't have and keep the ones they do. A blurb came out that even Cormani McClain might be in play. I mean, you never know.
I
But
saw a thing I saw a thing here today
yeah,
that Alabama's hot
and
on his trail as well.
yeah, and Alabama's hot, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously, they're in play for Desmond Ricks, and from what I've heard a top 5 class could be in order. Obviously, they will try to get as many as they can to enroll early. A lot of times that's a lot of people don't realize this is a lot of times enrolling early also is dictated by the type of school you go to. For instance, some schools have six periods versus 7, and you just can't get the course load in time to have enough credits by January. So it's not always that the kid is not necessarily smart enough. It's just the way that some school districts just don't have that type of deal. But they're definitely
Right.
looking to get as many as they can get in. And like I said, I think it would definitely be a top 10 class. Best case scenario will be a top 5 class. And for a 6-6 football team, I think that says a lot for the direction that Billy Napier and his staff have presented to these young men and their families going forward. And more interesting to me is, and particularly we kind of touched on the quarterback position, which will be key, but I'm really interested to see how active they will be in the transfer portal because, Billy Napier hinted at that last spring and kind of backed off of it. I think, with some of the defections, he even said some of the guys that are playing in the bowl game will be entering the transfer portal. So I think we talked about it before, and I think I told you anywhere between 30 to 35 new players. I'm gonna stand by that.
Okay, so we have 18 players so far that entered the portal. As far as signing day goes, can we sign 18 more new players? Well, how does that work? I mean,
you can sign. I think this year you can sign a limited number. So you can sign
as
many as you can sign. Usually it's 25. You can sign as many as you want to this year. And I don't know the logistics of that. Yeah, so you could sign, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to look at it this way. You can go into the spring, I think you can have an uncapped number in the spring. And then by fall camp, you have to get down to 105 players. But then you can actually then add and have more that don't necessarily come in the fall and begin two-a-day. So there's a lot of ways to work this thing. And then you obviously have 85 as your scholarship counter. So there's a lot of ways that they're, so, and you got to think, you're going to have guys leave. You're going to have guys leave right after the bowl game. Then you're going to have guys leave after spring practice. So I think, like I tell people, don't look at the roster right now. Look at the roster in the spring, kind of see how it goes, and then look at the roster in August and kind of see how it goes. And ultimately, until September, I think 4th, when they run out the tunnel in Salt Lake City, just hold your horses because it could be interesting.
I get a feeling that we're going to be in for a very interesting off season, unlike that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it's totally new, and it's funny.
Oh my gosh!
I ran into Kevin Sumlin in Daytona on Monday, and I kind of asked him about it, and he said, "Gotta adapt." And I think when he said that, it's not just coaches, but we in the media, as fans, everybody, you're just gonna have to adapt to this new normal because here we are now. This is where we are right now.
By the way, you haven't entered your name in the transfer portal to go to another newspaper, right? I mean, you're staying with Gatorbait Media.
Look, if Gatorbait ever goes away, I'll just retire and become a fan again. Maybe I'll come on your show, but other than that,
There you go. Let me ask you, what is it like working with a legend like Buddy Martin, who, is one of the more legendary journalists in all of America? Has been on the Paul Feinbaum show multiple of times. What is it like to work with a guy like Buddy Martin?
It's a joy. I mean, for someone who, it's kind of funny. And I don't mean this to I didn't necessarily choose Buddy. Buddy chose me, which is a blessing in itself. The amount of people that he knows, the people that he puts you in contact with, the respect that his name garners. You learn so much about just the business of the media, how to behave, how to interact. But not only that, just the number, the stories, and he literally has interviewed every head football coach at the University of Florida, I think, since 1958. I mean, just the breadth of knowledge and the people that he's, interacted with, and it's unbelievable. Gatorbait's a little mom and pop kind of operation, as Buddy puts it. But I think the commitment to true journalism is there, and he doesn't let you cut corners. You don't just submit a story because you wanted it. It's got to be rooted in facts, and he makes you go out there and get it, man. I mean, he really does. And for me, obviously this is my secondary profession, so to speak. Just the ability to be around not just him, but guys like France Beard and others, who's a sensational writer as well. Yeah, I mean, just it's just an honor. So, I mean, Buddy and I talk frequently, not just about things in the media and things like that, but journalism and I mean, and life and things like that. And he truly is a treasure in the state of Florida. So, you throw him up there with the Pat Dooleys and the and Bobby Andrew, those guys, and Robbie Andrews, and I mean, Buddy's right there, and they're all deserving of everything they get. So,
I'll tell you a great story. One year, a few years ago, I'm in Iowa, and I'm about 4 hours away from Columbia, Missouri. And I went to Missouri to see the Florida Gators play. That's the closest I could get to watch them, And I saw the Gators come to the hotel and everything, and a lot of the staff people, even Jeff somebody who was the sports information director. I forget his name. He's still there in another area. You know who I'm talking about. Nice people, some of the nicest people you ever want to meet. Even Dan. I even met Jeff Cardozo. I've been trying to get him on my show. So I met with Jeff and I can't remember his name. But anyways, so I go to Hooters, to eat. Guess who walks into the Hooters? None other than Bobby Andrews and Pat as well. And I sat down, and I sat down. We talked for a little bit. Very intelligent people, but also more importantly, just some of the nicest people you ever want to meet. And I tell you what, I would go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I mean, even you meet these guys, man, like the Mike Bianchis and Edgar Thompsons, and some of these guys that really do a nice job of covering the Gators, and Bianchi is notorious for giving Urban Meyer hell, and just talking to those guys about different things. It's just been.
What about Edgar? What about Edgar? He gives Napier hell. I mean, you should see.
He's a journalist, and that's what I mean. He really is, and he's been very, very gracious to me, and that kind of thing, and just a pro. And it's just really to be in the same room with those guys. I'm just like, wow. And all that's been made possible because of my interaction with Buddy and affiliation with Gatorbait. So
when they do a press conference, it's always Edgar that asks the first question, and the comments on YouTube is just unbelievable. So, Coach, well, what is the situation with Anthony Richardson? Will he be able to play this week? I mean, something like that. So, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to get you on after National Signing Day, probably after the Christmas holidays, and discuss all that's happened. And also something else, too, because just players can also enter the transfer portal as well, but coaching staff as well can seek other opportunities if they want to. Are you anticipating any moves there at all?
I think naturally you have to think that, they got 100 people. Somebody's leaving, So, and guys have friends in the business. And, if my buddy gets a head job or is an OC and wants me to come over, or DC or something. So, I mean, you're going to naturally have movement. I haven't heard anything. I think you could, like everybody, I can probably say with 100%, as much as people think that person should go, Patrick Toney is going nowhere. Rob Sale is going nowhere. Those are some of the closest people to Billy Napier, not just professionally, but personally. And he truly believes that he has the right people in those positions. You could see some people here. Katie Turner's not going anywhere. Bree Wade is not going anywhere. So, I can definitely, I could tell you who's staying far more than I can tell you who's going. I don't think Mike Peterson has any plans of going anywhere. So, there's going to be a lot of guys that they're just Napier guys,
Is that the same Mike Peterson that used to play at Florida? Did he play at Florida? That's
That's
what I thought. That's what I thought. I had taken up more of your time than I should have, but
Right,
I
man.
want to thank you for. Hey, listen. Let's try and hook up after National Signing Day, and
Absolutely.
of course, have a great Christmas, and we'll catch up with you down the road, man.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Lauren, the thing anytime, Lauren, and anytime you just want to hop on, you got the link. Just hop on anytime. You don't need an invitation, son.
All
All right,
right, man. Thanks a
all right,
lot. Happy
all
holidays
right,
to you. I'll
Lauren.
see you soon.
You too. Thank you too as well. Loren Meadows joining me on this edition of the Animal Football Insight. I love Loren. He does such an awesome job. Yes. I just saw this here. Vince Gerasi says, yes, he's back in the seat again, people. Glad to see you're feeling better. Yeah, I am feeling a lot better, but I'm not totally 100%. I've had some back issues and even had an MRI done yesterday. And let me give you a kind of experience what an MRI does. We hear guys saying that I have a knee injury, they're going to get an MRI done, or there's a back injury or things like that. What they do is that they lay you down on a machine, and you slide into a covered thing. It's like a circle. And what you have to do when you do this, you have to remain still. And you're in there for about 25 to 30 minutes. And I'm telling you, it's very hard for me, a guy like me, it's very hard to stay still. So, but that's what it's like. And it was kind of interesting, kind of scary, but that's done. So I want to know the results of that. And we'll see what happens moving forward with Insider as well. Quickly, let's kind of update you what's going on because Rams and Raiders are playing tonight. Last I saw, the Rams were leading. They are leading 13-3. They're in the third quarter. Playoff games do not bowl. I am not going to post that. I am not. What do you mean? Okay, I'm posting this. This is what Vince says. No crap. You can't sit still. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? I'm going to dismiss that comment. Good Lord. Oh, man. So the playoffs and the bowl season is right around the corner. It kicks off on Saturday the 17th. There's going to be several games. Now, for the Gators, they're going to be playing on the, Saturday, December 17th. Woohoo! I don't have to skip school or skip work. They'll be playing in the I just had it here a moment ago. It's going to be out in Las Vegas. And they'll be going to be taking on Oregon State at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas at the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. That'd be on the 17th of December. Game time will be 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central Time on ESPN. So that should be great. Now, let's talk about the games that are going on this weekend. We've had plenty of conversation about the Buccaneers. Let's see here, but we got some scheduling games that we want to talk about. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we have 6 teams that have buys this week. The Washington Commanders, New Orleans Saints, Indianapolis Colts, Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, and the Atlanta Falcons. The Bears and Packers not playing. You can expect Buffalo Wild Wings in West Des Moines, Iowa will not be crowded this week. Make no mistake about it. On to the games for this Sunday. Jets will be at Buffalo, and that might be a better game than most people figure. Cleveland and Cincinnati, Houston and Dallas, Minnesota, Detroit, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore will be in Pittsburgh. Then you have the afternoon games. KC will be in Denver, And then 3:25 Central Time, Bucs will play San Francisco. That game will be on Fox. Carolina versus Seattle, that game will also be on. Then the nightcap will be the Miami Dolphins taking on the lowly Los Angeles Chargers. I keep on saying San Diego. Monday night, New England versus Arizona. So that is the lineup that is going to be happening this weekend. So we kind of run over tonight. I thank you so much for joining me. Want to thank Loren Meadows for joining me. Want to thank Peter Blake of the Sports Web for joining me as well. And of course, fans Peter Gallant and Mitch Strassi dropping in their comments as well. It's been great. It's been exciting. We'll be back next week, God willing, if MRI test turns out okay. We'll be back next week for Animal Football Insider. It will be next Thursday. And then by that time, we'll have more clearance on transfer portal news. We'll talk about the Bucs a little bit and the game with the San Francisco 49ers. And I'll tell you a little secret. The Bucs will beat the 49ers. You think I'm crazy? That happens all the time. They can think what they want to. But I'm telling you here now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to beat the 49ers. So keep that, so put that in the bank. Thank you all for joining me tonight. We'll see you back here next Thursday night for the Animal Football Insider. And of course, before we leave, we always say one thing. If you are not a Gator, then you're primed to be Gator bait. Y'all have a good one. Good night, and God bless.
Thank you for watching Animal Football Insider. Be sure to join us every Thursday night here on Facebook Live.